The night Chicago's skyline glowed its brightest was the same night Camilla Rhodes's world collapsed in silence. She stood in the glass office on the 52nd floor, fingers trembling around the pen Jackson Pierce shoved toward her. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. His cold eyes said everything. "Sign it, Camilla. We both know you're not cut out for this marriage. Or motherhood." His words sliced straight into the part of her heart that still believed he cared. She had found out she was pregnant only hours earlier, still dizzy from the doctor's warnings, her mind fighting to hope. Jackson hadn't even asked if she was okay. He'd only asked for the divorce. Outside, the city shimmered like diamonds, cars crawling beneath the tower, a plane crossing the night sky, a lonely siren echoing between the buildings. Inside, it was dead quiet. Camilla swallowed the lump in her throat, her eyes stinging. She tried to speak, but Jackson's phone lit up with a message from Sienna Vale, the model who had been haunting her suspicions for months. "Don't fall apart," he muttered, annoyed. "It's embarrassing." Her fingers tightened painfully around the pen. When she finally signed, it felt like her spine cracked. Jackson snatched the papers as if he'd been waiting years. No goodbye, no guilt, no remorse. Just a nod, as if she were a problem finally removed from his schedule. And then he walked out straight into the elevator, straight toward his new life, straight toward the woman he had chosen over her. Camilla barely made it to the parking garage before her knees buckled. She pressed her back against a concrete pillar, tears pouring hot and uncontrollable. Her chest tightened with a sharp, terrifying pain. Her hand flew to her abdomen. "Please," she whispered. "Just stay with me. Please, baby." The cold air wrapped around her like punishment. Her breath fogged in front of her lips as another wave of pain rolled through her. She tried calling Jackson, then stopped. Of course he wouldn't come. Her vision blurred as she pushed herself toward her old Toyota, fumbling with the keys. A couple walked by laughing, carefree, unaware of the woman crumbling only feet away. Her phone buzzed again. A message from Jackson. "We're done. Don't contact me again." The screen dimmed. The world tilted. Camilla covered her mouth to muffle the sob threatening to tear her apart. She sank into the driver's seat, forehead against the steering wheel, heartbreaking in real time. She thought she had hit the lowest point imaginable. But she had no idea that this night was only the beginning. No idea how far Jackson and Sienna's betrayal would go. No idea who would soon enter her life. And absolutely no idea that the tiny flutter inside her was not one heartbeat, but two. And before dawn broke, something would happen that changed everything forever. Chicago woke with a gray, icy dawn the morning after Camilla Rhodes's life broke apart. While the city rushed through its routine buses hissing at stops, coffee shops buzzing with early commuters, Camilla sat on the edge of her narrow bed in her tiny studio apartment, staring at the faint outline of her reflection in the window. Her eyes were swollen from hours of crying, her throat raw, her heart bruised so deeply she wondered if it would ever beat normally again. The divorce papers lay on her kitchen counter, still smelling faintly of Jackson's cologne, a scent she once found comforting but now felt like poison. Camilla wasn't just heartbroken. She was exhausted, frightened, and desperately alone. Her childhood in the foster care system had taught her how to survive with almost nothing. But it hadn't prepared her for this, the grief of being discarded by the man she had trusted more than anyone else in her life. She had married Jackson Pierce, believing she had finally escaped the instability of her past, believing he saw in her the strength no one else had bothered to recognize. Instead, she had become disposable the moment she didn't fit into his perfect corporate image. Her phone buzzed with a voicemail from her supervisor at the insurance firm. She knew the tone before pressing play, concern mixed with the underlying pressure of needing her back at work. "Camilla, we heard about the divorce. Just take today, okay? Call me when you're ready." Ready? She didn't even know who she was without Jackson. She had spent 3 years shaping herself to be the supportive CEO's wife, quiet, polished, dependable, the kind of woman who kept her pain tucked under a calm smile, the kind who let her husband shine while she stayed in the background. But the truth was darker. Jackson had chipped away at her confidence, little by little. "You overthink everything," he would say. "No one at those events cares about your opinion. Just look presentable. You're too emotional. You should be grateful I'm patient with you." And she had believed him, the way neglected children learn to believe every harsh word their caretakers speak. She never argued. She never pushed back. She believed staying silent was the only way to keep a home, a marriage, a family she desperately wanted. But now the home was gone, the marriage gone, and the family her trembling hand drifted to her abdomen hung in a dangerous, uncertain balance. She had no one to talk to. No mother to call. No sibling to lean on. Her closest friend had moved to Seattle last year. Even her coworkers kept their distance. Most of them assumed she only climbed the corporate ladder because she had married a CEO, not realizing she had an IQ that put her in the top 1% of analysts in the industry. She had built her success the way she built her life, quietly, alone, and without applause. As the city brightened outside, Camila forced herself to stand. She washed her face, pulled her hair into a low ponytail, and wrapped herself in the thick beige sweater her foster mother had knitted years ago, the only item she had saved from that time. She needed warmth. She needed something that felt like safety. She didn't know what came next. She didn't know how to survive a pregnancy with no partner, no money, and no emotional support. She didn't know how to rebuild her life from ashes for the second time. But somewhere under all the fear, something small flickered. Not hope exactly, more like defiance. Because even shattered women can stand again. And Camila Rhodes was about to discover just how strong she truly was. Chicago had become a city of ghosts for Camila Rhodes. Every street, every restaurant, every corner carried a memory of Jackson. She couldn't breathe without feeling him lingering somewhere in the shadows of her mind. So, when the HR department approved a remote working option at her request, she made a decision that surprised even herself. She would leave. Not just the apartment. Not just the neighborhood. Chicago. By the end of the week, she was dragging 2 suitcases across the worn carpet of O'Hare Airport, her heart hammering as if she were fleeing a crime scene. The intercom announcements echoed like distant instructions meant for someone else. Her entire life had shrunk to 2 bags, a lukewarm bottle of water, and one fragile secret growing inside her, one she wasn't sure her body could keep, but she prayed for anyway. Her destination, New York City. It wasn't a glamorous choice. It wasn't about reinvention. It was survival. New York was big enough for her to disappear, busy enough for no one to ask questions, loud enough to drown out all the parts of her heart she didn't want to hear anymore. When the plane touched down, the city greeted her with the usual sensory overload, horns blaring, cabs weaving like they were in a Grand Prix, steam rising from street grates like the earth itself was exhaling. Yet beneath the chaos, something stirred in her chest, a pulse, a faint rhythm of possibility. Maybe this was the right place to fall apart. And maybe, just maybe, it was the right place to start again. Her temporary rental was in Washington Heights, a modest 3rd-floor walk-up with a stubborn radiator and a view of a brick wall. But it was quiet, anonymous, and far removed from the polished glass world Jackson lived in. She unpacked slowly, folding each item with care, almost ritualistically. A new beginning didn't have to be glamorous. It just had to be hers. The next morning she ventured into the city, needing air, needing distraction. Manhattan was a world she had only ever seen during business trips with Jackson, always from the back seat of a car, always filtered through his rigid schedule. Now she walked it as a stranger, unnoticed, free in the smallest, saddest way. Central Park in early fall was breathtaking, leaves blazing gold and red, as if setting the entire landscape on fire. She sat on a bench, her hands instinctively cradling her abdomen. She didn't look like a pregnant woman yet. She barely felt like one. The fear was constant, the fear of losing the baby, of failing again, of history repeating itself. But surrounded by joggers, families, and strangers laughing under the late morning sun, she let herself breathe. It was here, under the shadow of the American elm trees, that her life's next chapter quietly shifted. She didn't notice him at first, the tall man leaning against a lamppost, dressed in a charcoal coat that didn't quite match his rugged, understated presence. He wasn't watching her specifically, just observing the park with a thoughtful stillness unusual for New York. But he noticed her, a woman alone, eyes red from crying, shoulders tense as if holding the weight of something invisible. His gaze lingered a moment, not with curiosity, but with recognition. Camila didn't know it yet, but this was Adrian Crowell, the man whose existence would unravel everything she thought she understood about power, loyalty, and fate. And in just a few weeks, he would become the most important person she had ever met. But for now, he remained a stranger, watching her life quietly drift toward him. Back in Los Angeles, far from the quiet corner of Central Park where Camila tried to piece herself together, Jackson Pierce was celebrating. Not quietly, not privately, but loudly, flashily, like a man who wanted the world to know he had won. The rooftop of the Pierce Biosystems Innovation Tower glittered under the California Sunday. A private brunch was underway, attended by influencers, investors, and every social climber desperate to orbit Jackson's rising star. Photographers drifted between tables, pretending to be discreet while capturing every angle of the new power couple. Lun. At the center of it all sat Jackson, immaculate in a tailored navy suit, one hand on his champagne glass and the other resting possessively on the thigh of Sienna Vale. Sienna smiled at the cameras with practiced sweetness, her eyes large and luminous. But underneath that softness lived something sharp. Calculating. Dangerous. She had spent years learning how to charm powerful men, how to slip into their lives like silk, and stay long enough to secure what she wanted. This time, she wanted everything. Jackson leaned toward her, brushing a strand of hair behind her ear. To anyone watching, it looked tender, intimate. But Sienna felt the truth. His touch was more about ownership than affection. "Heard from the board yet?" she whispered, her voice low so the microphones wouldn't catch it. "They're approving the merger proposal on Monday," he said, confidence dripping from every word. After that, Pierce Biosystems becomes the dominant force in the biotech market. "And your ex-wife?" she asked, feigning innocence as she sipped her mimosa. "Camila?" he scoffed. "She's irrelevant. Probably crying somewhere, but that's not my problem anymore." Sienna hid her smirk behind the rim of her glass. His arrogance was a tool she used. Well, he underestimated everyone, even the woman who had been loyal to him for years. A man like that was easy to manipulate, easy to lead exactly where she wanted. But inside, a flicker of annoyance tightened her stomach. Jackson still spoke about Camila with a lingering irritation, as if the very memory of her existence bothered him. Sienna didn't like sharing space in a man's mind with another woman, not even in whispers. Just a few steps away, Jackson's mother, Evelyn Pierce, watched them with thinly veiled disapproval. A woman bred in old money circles, Evelyn considered Sienna a temporary distraction, and she didn't bother hiding it. She leaned toward her sister, murmuring in a voice meant to be overheard. "He's making a mistake. That girl is not Camila." And Jackson heard it. His jaw tightened. He hated being compared to his ex-wife, because deep down, he knew Camila had been the best thing in his life. The only person who genuinely cared for him. The only one who believed he was more than the ruthless CEO he had become. But ego was louder than conscience. So he pretended not to care. "Mother will adjust," Jackson murmured to Sienna. "Once the wedding happens, they'll all accept you." Sienna's smile sharpened. "As long as it happens soon." "Oh, it will," Jackson said. "I've planned everything." Len. He didn't know it yet, but his carefully curated world had a crack running right through it, one he had created the night he forced Camila to sign those papers. A crack about to split wide open. As the brunch continued, and cameras flashed, Jackson lifted a champagne glass to toast his bright, untouchable future. But somewhere, thousands of miles away, the woman he discarded was carrying the one thing he believed he could never have. A child. A truth that would detonate his world and expose every lie he had built his kingdom on. New York had slowly begun to feel breathable for Camila Rhodes. She wasn't healed, not even close, but she was functioning. She could walk down the street without crying. She could sleep through most of the night without waking in terror that something was wrong with the baby. She could even make it through a full morning of remote work without her hands shaking. But peace never lasts long for a woman whose past refuses to stay buried. It happened on a Friday evening. Camila had just finished a grocery run, shuffling bags into her tiny kitchen, humming softly to distract herself from the nausea that had returned. She flipped on the radio for background noise, not expecting anything more than weather reports and traffic updates. Instead, the announcer's voice rang out, bright and careless. "Los Angeles is buzzing today after the surprise engagement of biotech CEO Jackson Pierce and rising model Sienna Vale. Sources say the engagement party took place at the Beverly Hills Hotel with hundreds of celebrity guests." The grocery bag slipped from Camila's hands. Apples rolled across the linoleum floor. "No, no, no, no." Another voice chimed in, this one amused, almost gleeful. The photos are wild. Sienna showed off a diamond ring the size of Lake Michigan. And Jackson? He looks extremely proud of himself. Camila's vision blurred. She groped for the counter to steady herself. Her breath came in shallow bursts she couldn't control. Engaged. Already. 9 months after throwing her away like she meant nothing. She fumbled for her phone with trembling fingers, searching Jackson's name online even though she knew she would regret it. Every headline felt like a slap. Jackson Pierce and Sienna Vale, the new power couple of biotech. The Chio and the supermodel. Inside their shock engagement, Pierce rebounds into love ex-wife, not in sight. Her chest twisted so sharply she nearly folded over. This wasn't heartbreak. It was humiliation ripped open and displayed to the entire world. And then the video started auto-playing. A reporter pushed a mic towards Sienna, who leaned gracefully into Jackson's side. So, Sienna, do you have any comment about Jackson's previous marriage? Sienna laughed a delicate, cruel sound. Well, everyone outgrows someone, right? Jackson didn't correct her. He didn't defend Camila. He didn't show even a flicker of regret. He simply tightened his arm around Sienna and kissed her temple while cameras flashed like lightning. Camila pressed both hands over her stomach, fighting the urge to collapse. The baby's God. The babies, she couldn't let her stress hurt them. She forced herself to breathe, to stand upright, to blink away the tears threatening to drown her. But then her phone buzzed. A message. From an unknown number. She hesitated before opening it. When she did, the air left her lungs. It was a photo. Jackson and Sienna standing beneath a floral arch, champagne glasses raised. But someone had circled a detail in red. Jackson was wearing the watch Camila had given him on their first anniversary. He had told her he lost it. He hadn't lost anything. He had simply saved it for a grander audience. Camila felt something inside her shift, something fragile, snapping, something buried rising. The pain didn't vanish. It sharpened, focused, turned into something colder, stronger. She wasn't going to survive this by hiding. She wasn't going to outcry Sienna or outshine Jackson, but she would outlive them. Because betrayal has a strange reaction in the hearts of soft women. It turns them into steel. And before the night ended, someone unexpected would knock on her door, someone who had seen the same headlines, and wasn't willing to let her face the world alone. The knock on Camila's apartment door came softly at first, so soft she thought she imagined it. She sat on the floor between scattered groceries, her breath still unsteady from the storm of emotions the engagement news had unleashed. Her sweater sleeves were damp from wiping tears she didn't even remember shedding. She pressed a hand over her abdomen, whispering to the babies whose existence felt like the only thing tethering her to the world. Another knock. Firmer. She flinched. "Camila?" A voice called from outside. A man's voice. Calm. Deep. Unfamiliar yet strangely steadying. "It's Adrian Crowell. We met briefly, in the park." Her heart lurched. She remembered him now, the quiet stranger who had watched her with eyes that didn't judge but understood. She hadn't known his name then, but she felt something in his presence. She didn't know he was a billionaire. She didn't know he was connected to her past in ways that would later shatter everything she believed. All she knew was that she didn't want anyone to see her like this. I'm not accepting visitors," she called back, trying to sound composed. There was a pause. Then, "I saw the news. I just wanted to make sure you're all right." Her throat tightened. That simple sentence, so gentle, so unassuming, nearly undid her again. No one had asked if she was all right in months. Jackson certainly never had. Not even when she begged him to come home the night she fainted from stress. Not when she feared losing the baby. Not when the doctor warned her of complications. And now this stranger stood outside her door, offering a sliver of kindness she didn't know how to accept. She opened the door just a crack. Adrian stood there in a dark coat, the hallway light casting soft shadows across his features. His expression wasn't pitying, it was concerned, but respectfully so. He didn't look at her tear-streaked face with awkward discomfort like most people did. He simply nodded, acknowledging her pain without prying into it. "Can I come in?" he asked quietly. She hesitated, then stepped back. Her apartment was small, cluttered with grocery bags and the remnants of her breakdown. She braced herself for judgment, but Adrian didn't so much as blink. Instead, he knelt and began picking up apples from the floor, as if this were the most natural thing in the world. "You don't have to do that," she whispered. "I know," he said softly. "That's why I'm doing it." Something fragile inside her trembled. When the groceries were back on the counter, Adrian leaned against the stove, giving her space. "Things like this," he said gently, "public humiliation. It hits harder than anyone realizes." Camila swallowed. "I wasn't humiliated," she murmured. Adrian raised an eyebrow, not mocking, but knowing. She sank into a chair. "Okay," she whispered. "Maybe I was." "Of course you were," he said, his voice steady. "Because you're human. And because he should have protected you. Not this." She covered her face. "Why does it hurt so much still? After everything he did, why does it still feel like I'm the failure?" "You loved him," Adrian replied simply. "Love doesn't disappear just because someone doesn't deserve it." Her breath hitched. No one had ever said it like that. For a moment, the apartment fell silent except for the hum of the refrigerator. "Camila," he said carefully, "you're not alone. Not anymore. Whatever you're facing, you don't have to face it by yourself." "How?" Before she could respond, her phone buzzed violently on the table. Another headline notification flashed across the screen. Jackson Pierce had released a public statement, and its first line made the blood drain from her face. "I wish my ex-wife well, and I hope she can move on and find purpose." Purpose. As if she were empty without him. Her hand trembled. Adrian's jaw tightened, and in that moment, a storm began building, one that would soon pull all three of their worlds violently together. For the next few days, Camila walked around in a fog thick enough to choke on. She worked, she rested, she tried to eat. She pretended the ache in her chest wasn't growing heavier with every new headline about Jackson's fairy tale engagement. But even pretending required strength she barely had left. Adrian checked on her every other day, never intruding. Always asking permission. He brought soup once. Another time, herbal tea for nausea. Always simple gestures, never invasive. Yet she could feel something shifting. His quiet presence made her braver. His steady eyes reminded her she wasn't invisible anymore. Still, she hadn't told him she was pregnant. Not because she didn't trust him, she didn't trust the world. Then came the phone call that changed everything. She was sitting on the couch, laptop open on a spreadsheet she had reread 10 times without absorbing a single number. Her phone lit up with a name she didn't expect. Harper Quinn, divorce attorney. Her breath caught. She hadn't spoken to Harper since signing the papers. "Hello?" Camila said, her voice small. "Camila," Harper said, out of breath, papers rustling in the background. "We need to talk." A cold shiver ran through her. "Did something happen?" I was reviewing your case files for a seminar," Harper said quickly. "And something wasn't right. I thought maybe it was my mistake. I checked again. It wasn't." "What do you mean, not right?" Harper inhaled sharply. "Your ex-husband didn't read the full packet when he pushed you to sign." Camila blinked, confused. "Everyone signs without reading in high-stress moments, Harper." "No," Harper insisted. "He forced you to sign, but he didn't realize he also had to sign a mirror copy one his assistant mixed into the wrong folder." Camila sat up straighter. "Harper, what are you saying?" "I'm saying," Harper said slowly, "that Jackson signed a forfeiture clause he didn't intend to sign." Camila's stomach dropped. "Forfeiture of what?" Another rustle of papers. A soft curse. "Camila, the clause states that Jackson Pierce waives all parental rights to any child conceived before the divorce date." The room spun. "What?" she whispered. "Legally," Harper continued, voice trembling with disbelief, "if you had a child with him even unknowingly, he has 0 rights. Financial, custodial, visitation. Nothing. He forfeited everything the moment he shoved those papers at you." The world narrowed to a single point. Her babies. Her tiny, fragile babies. Safe from Jackson in ways she couldn't have imagined. "But he doesn't know," Camila murmured. "No," Harper confirmed. "And when he finds out, because we both know he will, he'll try to bury you in court. Except he can't. He signed away his power." Camila pressed a hand to her lips. "I never wanted revenge. I just wanted peace." "And you deserve it," Harper said gently. "But he deserves consequences, Camila. Real ones." Tears filled her eyes, not from hurt this time, but from something lighter, something like release. "I need time to think," she whispered. "You take all the time you need," Harper said. "But Camila, this is your turning point. Don't be afraid of it." When the call ended, Camila stared at the blank wall across from her, heartbeat thudding through her entire body. The babies shifted gently inside her, as if reminding her they were there alive, fighting, hers. A quiet knock pulled her back. She opened the door. Adrian stood there holding 2 cups of hot chocolate, but he froze when he saw her face, tearful, stunned, changed. "Camila," he said softly, "what happened?" Her lips parted. Everything was about to begin, and for the first time, she wasn't afraid anymore. Adrian didn't push for answers. He didn't demand explanations or hover the way people often do when they sense a secret trembling behind someone's eyes. Instead, he handed Camila the warm cup of hot chocolate and sat across from her at the small kitchen table, waiting not with impatience, but quiet presence. It was this gentleness that finally loosened something inside her. "I'm pregnant," she whispered, the words barely audible. Adrian's eyes softened, not shocked, not scandalized, just present. "I wondered," he said quietly. "You've been holding your stomach when you don't realize it." Her breath caught. "You knew?" "I suspected," he corrected. "But I wanted you to tell me when you were ready." Camila looked down at her trembling hands. "I don't know how to do this alone." You won't be alone," Adrian said simply. Those 4 words nearly broke her again, but this time in a good way, a cathartic way. She told him everything then. The complications, the fear of losing the babies, Jackson's cruelty, the rushed divorce, and finally, Harper's revelation. By the time she finished, the hot chocolate had gone cold between her palms, but her heart felt strangely lighter, like she had expelled years of silence. Adrian leaned forward, elbows on his knees. "Camila, what that man did to you is unforgivable. But this," he gestured gently toward her abdomen, "this isn't the end of your story. Not even close." She laughed weakly. "It feels like the end some days." "It's the beginning," he said softly. "You're rebuilding. It doesn't feel like it yet, but you are." And he was right. The next few weeks became a quiet transformation. Camila started every morning with a walk through Central Park. The fall air was crisp, and the trees were shedding their leaves in vibrant waves of gold. With each step, she felt a new part of her waking up, parts that had been buried under Jackson's control, under years of trying to be the wife he wanted instead of the woman she was. She began wearing colors again. Soft greens, warm browns, cozy sweaters that hugged her growing belly instead of hiding it. She cooked real meals. She worked without crying. And every afternoon, Adrian would stop by, not every day, but often enough to become part of her healing. Sometimes they talked, sometimes they didn't. He had mastered the art of quiet company. One Saturday, he surprised her with a small white box from a bookstore on Fifth Avenue. "I thought you might like this," he said. Inside was a hardcover journal, forest green, embossed with gold edges. "For when you're ready to write your own story again," he added. Camila traced the edges with her fingertips. Something in her chest unfolded. No one had ever given her a gift that saw her, not her role, not her usefulness, not her weakness, just her. When she looked up, Adrian was watching her with something warm and unspoken. She wasn't ready for anything more. Not yet. But the possibility didn't scare her anymore. One evening, as snow flurries drifted past her window, Camila felt the baby's kick for the first time. She gasped, pressing her hand to her belly, tears rushing to her eyes. She had prayed, begged, bargained for this moment after 2 devastating losses. These babies were strong. They were fighters, just like her. She called Adrian without thinking. He didn't ask questions. He simply said, "I'm on my way." As she waited, feeling tiny kicks beneath her palm, a realization settled deep inside her. This new life, this quiet, unexpected rebirth was just beginning. And none of them had any idea that Jackson Pierce's world was about to crack wide open. While Camila Rhodes was slowly stitching her life back together in New York, Jackson Pierce was busy destroying his without even realizing it. His engagement to Sienna Vale had blown up across every major platform. Glamour magazine called them the new American dynasty. Financial journals praised Jackson's genius in stabilizing his personal life, just months before proposing the biggest merger in biotech history. Sienna basked in the attention, preening for the cameras like she was born for the spotlight. But the truth behind closed doors? Everything was unraveling. The board of Pierce Biosystems wasn't celebrating the engagement the way Jackson expected. In fact, several members were furious. Investors whispered that Sienna was a liability and a PR risk. Some called the engagement unprofessional timing. And deeper still, there were rumors, ugly ones, circulating through boardrooms in hushed voices. Why did Jackson push the divorce so fast? Was there misconduct? Why is he hiding Camila? Jackson dismissed it all. He believed his career was untouchable. But the first real fracture appeared on a Tuesday morning. It started with a glitch. The company's flagship medical software, the one Jackson had promised would revolutionize personalized diagnostics, began delivering inconsistent results during a major investor demonstration. The system froze. Twice. An assistant fainted from panic. Jackson lost his temper publicly, yelling at a developer in front of a dozen stakeholders. Videos leaked online within hours. Pierce stock dipped 3% before noon. Sienna tried to console him, draping herself over his shoulder like a decorative shawl, but Jackson's patience was thinning. "Not now, Sienna," he snapped. Cameras caught it. Twitter turned it into a meme. But the worst part? The glitch wasn't random. Someone had tampered with the software's testing environment. Someone inside the company. Someone who knew exactly where to strike. And Jackson had no idea who. 3,000 miles away, Camila wasn't thinking about Jackson at all. She sat curled on her couch, laptop open, rerunning the last ultrasound clip. Her babies, tiny, strong, beautifully alive, floated on the monitor like two little miracles. She pressed a hand against her belly. "You're safe," she whispered. "I'll protect you." But safety was fragile, because while she tried to find peace, Jackson was losing control. And men like Jackson never lose quietly. The second crack hit a week later. Jackson was sitting in a high-level board meeting when a folder slid across the table toward him. It contained digital footprints tied to mismanaged funds money he didn't remember authorizing. Someone had rerouted funds from a research project to a private shell corporation. "Are you accusing me of fraud?" Jackson snapped. "We're asking for clarification," said Chairman Lee, voice cold as marble. Jackson flipped through the pages, heart hammering. None of it made sense. None of it matched approvals he remembered giving. But the timestamps didn't lie. His login, his authorization, his digital signature. Except Jackson hadn't signed any of it. Someone was setting him up. Someone with access. Someone smart enough to dismantle him one document at a time. His pulse spiked. His mind raced. But still he didn't think of Camila. He didn't consider that the woman he threw away could matter again. He didn't consider that his past could return like a ghost with teeth. And he certainly didn't consider the possibility that another man, a man far more powerful than him, might be quietly watching everything unfold. As the meeting ended, Jackson stormed toward the elevator, slamming the folder shut. He didn't see the thin smile forming on Chairman Lee's lips. He didn't know new alliances had already been formed. And he didn't know his downfall had already begun. Because someone was about to tie every piece of his unraveling empire. Back to the night, he forced Camila to sign those papers. The contractions began just after dawn. Camila Rhodes had been awake most of the night, unable to shake the strange pressure in her lower abdomen. She tried to breathe through it, chalking it up to stress or the baby's shifting. But when the pain sharpened, curling through her like a hot wire, she knew. Her water hadn't broken yet, but instinct screamed that it was time. Fear clawed at her immediately. She wasn't due for weeks. Not yet. Not now. Her hands shook as she dialed the one number she trusted. Adrian answered on the first ring. "Camila?" Her breath hitched. I think something's happening." He didn't ask questions. Didn't waste a second. "I'm on my way. Don't move." 0. Minutes later, though, it felt like hours, he was at her door, shrugging off the cold morning air as he scooped her into his arms with a gentleness that belied his size and strength. "You're okay. I've got you." His voice was steady, grounding her as contraction after contraction rolled through her. The cab ride to the hospital was a blur of pain, fear, and Adrian murmuring calm reassurance beside her. By the time they arrived, nurses had her in a wheelchair, rushing her through bright hallways that smelled of antiseptic and urgency. "She's early," one nurse muttered. "Twins?" another asked. "High-risk pregnancy. Page neonatal. Camila squeezed her eyes shut. Not now. Not yet. Not when the world finally felt like it wasn't collapsing beneath her feet. Adrian stayed close the entire time, his hand wrapped around hers as doctors fastened monitors to her belly. The sound of 2 tiny heartbeats filled the room fast, fluttering, fighting. Tears streamed down her cheeks when she heard them. "They're strong," the doctor said. "They want to be here." Her chest cracked open in a flood of relief. Hours seemed to pass in minutes. Nurses moved quickly. Doctors barked orders. Machines beeped steadily. Adrian stood like an unmoving wall by her side, his thumb brushing her knuckles every time she cried out. "Adrian," she gasped through another contraction. "I'm scared." "I know," he murmured, leaning close. "But you're not alone. I'm here. I'm not going anywhere." She believed him. For the first time, she fully believed him. And then, just before noon, as sunlight spilled across the sterile white floor, the first baby arrived. A cry pierced the room, thin but fierce. "A boy," a nurse shouted. Camila sobbed as they lifted the tiny infant briefly to her chest. He was small, pink, struggling, but determined. Her heart exploded with love so sudden and powerful it almost hurt. Minutes later, a second cry. "A girl." Camila laughed through tears, exhausted and overwhelmed, as the nurse placed the little girl against her shoulder. 2 miracles. 2 living, breathing pieces of her heart. "You did it," Adrian whispered, voice thick, brushing her damp forehead. "Camila, you did it." She looked up at him, eyes shining. "We're okay?" she asked. "You're more than okay," he said softly. "You're incredible." The babies were whisked to the neonatal unit for monitoring. Camila watched them go, fear tugging at her ribs but pride swelling even stronger. They were fighters, just like she had been forced to become. Later, in the quiet of her hospital room, Adrian sat beside her bed. No cameras, no chaos. Just the 2 of them, and the soft hum of distant machines. "You saved us today," she murmured. He shook his head. "You saved yourself, Camila. And you saved them." She let her eyes fall closed, exhaustion pulling her under. But before sleep claimed her, the last thought that flickered through her mind was this: her life wasn't ending. It was just beginning. And somewhere across the country, Jackson Pierce was about to discover the truth that would destroy him. The news broke before Camila had even finished her first post-delivery meal. She was half sitting in her hospital bed, exhausted but glowing in the soft afternoon light, when a nurse rushed in with her phone in hand and wide eyes. "Oh my God," the nurse whispered. "Miss Rhodes, you're trending." Camila blinked, confused. "Trending? What do you mean trending?" Before the nurse could answer, Adrian appeared in the doorway, calm on the surface, but his jaw was tight in a way she had only seen when he was holding back anger. He held his phone loosely at his side. "Camila," he said gently, "there's something you should see." Her stomach dropped. "Is it about the babies? Are they okay?" "They're perfect," he reassured quickly. "They're strong, they're beautiful, they're fighters." His voice softened. "They're yours." She sagged in relief. "Then what?" Adrian approached slowly, handing her the phone, and her world tilted. A single photograph filled the screen, grainy, obviously taken by a hospital visitor. It showed Adrian carrying Camila down the hallway earlier that morning, her head against his shoulder, her hospital gown peeking out from beneath his coat. She looked fragile, exhausted, heartbreakingly human. The caption: "Who is the woman billionaire Adrian Crowell rushed into NY Mercy this morning?" Below, thousands of comments, speculation, curiosity, and then a second photo. A nurse wheeling 2 neonatal bassinets down the hall. 2 pink blankets, 2 tiny heads. A headline exploded across every platform. "Billionaire Adrian Crowell welcomes twins with mystery woman?" Camila's blood ran cold. "No," she whispered. "No, no, no, this isn't true. Adrian, we didn't." "I know," he said softly. Her breathing hitched. "People will think." "Yes," he said. "They will." Panic constricted her chest. The world had never been kind to her. Jackson shaped narratives with money and charm. Sienna shaped them with beauty and poison. Camila knew she didn't stand a chance against public opinion. "I didn't want this," she whispered. "I didn't want anyone dragged into my mess." Adrian sank into the chair beside her bed. "You're not a mess, Camila. And you didn't drag me anywhere." He paused. "But I do want you to know something." Her eyes lifted uncertainly. "I released a statement," he said. Her heart stopped. "You what?" "To protect you," he answered calmly. "Before the press twisted the story into something ugly." "One." She swallowed hard. "What did you say?" He reached for her hand slowly, giving her time to pull away. She didn't. "I told them the truth," he said quietly. "That you're the bravest woman I've ever met. That you fought for those babies with everything inside you. That I'm supporting you because you deserve every ounce of help and respect this world failed to give you." Her throat tightened painfully. "You didn't owe me that," she whispered. "I know," he said. "But I wanted to." "Ah." When she didn't respond, he added, "And I never said they were mine." She exhaled shakily. But relief didn't last long, because her phone buzzed again. A new headline. A new wave. A new wildfire. Across the country, in Los Angeles, photographers had caught Jackson Pierce storming out of his corporate office, face ashen, fury radiating from every muscle. Sienna trailed behind him, pale and desperate. And the headline across every news site read, "Jackson Pierce rages after seeing viral photos of ex-wife and billionaire with twins." Camila stared at the screen. The past had finally caught up to her. And for the first time, she wasn't the one who looked weak, but Jackson. Jackson looked terrified. Jackson Pierce had always believed two things absolutely. He controlled the narrative. Camila Rhodes would never rise without him. Both beliefs shattered the moment he saw the viral photos. He was in a boardroom in downtown Los Angeles, facing a dozen executives, when his phone wouldn't stop buzzing. At first, he ignored it. He was too busy trying to defend the collapse of the software demonstration the week before. But when every person at the table began glancing at their phones, eyebrows lifting in disbelief, Jackson finally snapped. "Is there something more important than this meeting?" Chairman Lee slid his tablet across the table. "You should see this." Jackson looked down, and the world punched him in the gut. A photo of Camila, weak and exhausted, in the arms of another man. Adrian Kroll, biotech's most elusive, most powerful investor. Then another photo. 2 bassinets, 2 babies, twin babies. His hands froze. His throat dried. His pulse hammered so violently he could barely see the screen. The headline screamed, "Mystery twins. Billionaire Crowell seen supporting former Mrs. Pierce at hospital." The boardroom spun. He didn't hear Chairman Lee dismissing the meeting. He didn't hear Sienna calling his name from the hallway. He didn't hear anything. Just the roar of disbelief flooding his skull. Twins. Babies. Camila. And Adrian Kroll? The man who had publicly humiliated more than one CEO with a single investment shift. The billionaire who could make or destroy entire companies with a phone call. The man Jackson knew, despised him for reasons he never understood. No. 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 He stormed out of the conference room, ignoring cameras, ignoring staff, ignoring the way Sienna tried to cling to his arm. "Jackson, please talk to me." "Not now," he growled, shoving past her. But Sienna chased him down the hallway, heels clicking like gunshots. "She's doing this on purpose. She wants to embarrass you." Jackson spun on her so fast she flinched. "She had twins, Sienna. Twins. And you expect me to believe this is nothing?" He didn't realize how loud he was until he noticed the interns staring. Sienna stepped closer, lowering her voice. "You said she couldn't carry a pregnancy. You told me she was too fragile. That the doctor warned." "She was," he snapped. "She had complications. She. His voice collapsed under the weight of his own guilt. Complications. Tears. Please. The night she begged him not to leave her alone. Memories slammed into him like a freight train. Sienna touched his arm again, softer this time. "Jackson, are you sure those babies aren't?" "They can't be mine," he said automatically. "My doctor said." He stopped, because he remembered something. The day he met with the specialist. The temporary infertility diagnosis. The injection protocol he had skipped. The follow-up appointment he never attended. The warning he brushed off, "You may still be fertile for the next several months." His stomach dropped to the floor. Oh God, what if? No. He refused to finish the thought. They're not mine. He whispered again, but it sounded less certain. Sienna's eyes narrowed. Then why does he look like you? He froze. What did you say? She turned her phone toward him. A close-up of the baby boy, tiny nose, soft jawline, familiar eyebrows. A face that sent ice down Jackson's spine. Because the resemblance was undeniable. He stumbled back, breath strangled. No. Impossible. Impossible. Except, it wasn't. Panic exploded in his chest. Because if the twins were his, then Camila Rhodes wasn't just trending. She was holding the very thing that could destroy him. His legacy. His reputation. His future. And worst of all, his last shred of control. He grabbed his coat, voice hoarse. I'm going to New York. Sienna's face paled. Jackson, wait, what are you going to do? He didn't turn around when he answered. Get the truth. But deep down, he already knew. The truth was about to ruin him. The storm over Manhattan had no mercy that night. Rain slammed against the windows of NY Mercy Hospital in angry sheets, like the sky itself was warning the world that something irreversible was about to happen. Inside her dim recovery room, Camila Rhodes slept lightly, too lightly, her body still aching from labor, her heart still adjusting to the overwhelming reality of motherhood. The twins rested in the neonatal unit, monitored closely, but stable. Safe. Breathing. Alive. She should have been at peace. But a woman who has survived betrayal never truly sleeps deeply. Around 2 a.m., the door creaked open. Camila's eyes snapped open instantly, fight or flight instinct awakened. She sat up, breath shallow. Camila, Harper Quinn whispered, rain dripping from her coat. I'm sorry for the late hour, but I had to come. Now. Camila blinked, still groggy. Harper? What's wrong? Harper shut the door behind her and pulled out a waterproof folder from her bag. The logo stamped on the tab read, Pierce Biosystems, Confidential Personnel Records. Camila's heart lurched. Where did you? Anonymous delivery, Harper said. Left at my office an hour ago. And whoever sent it wanted you to see this before Jackson reaches New York. Fear rippled through Camila's chest. Jackson is coming here, she whispered. Harper nodded grimly. He's already on a red-eye flight, and he won't be arriving empty-handed. Camila swallowed hard. What does that mean? Harper opened the folder. Photos, emails, financial reports, medical documents, all with Jackson's signature. But the document on top, highlighted, stamped, marked, was the one Harper placed gently into Camila's trembling hands. A fertility evaluation. Jackson's fertility evaluation. The same appointment he swore was just routine. The same appointment he refused to discuss. And on page 3, in bold clinical text, patient exhibits temporary infertility due to hormonal imbalance. Conception is still possible within a 6-month window. Camila blinked. Her pulse roared in her ears. 6 months. Her babies were conceived 4 months before the divorce. Everything inside her went cold. He knew, she whispered. He knew he could still. He knew it wasn't impossible. Harper nodded tightly. And he hid it from you. Then rushed the divorce. Then forced you to sign while knowing he might still be the father. A soft, devastated sound escaped Camila's throat. She pressed a hand over her mouth, shaking. All those nights, Jackson dismissed her. All the times he accused her of being the problem. All the pain. All the shame. All the self-blame. Ali. A manipulation. A punishment. He let me believe I was broken, she whispered, voice cracking. He let me think I couldn't carry a baby. He let me think every miscarriage was my fault. Tears streamed down her face, not weak tears, but furious ones. Betrayal reopened like a wound freshly cut. Harper placed a second document into her lap. And here's what destroys him. 1. Camila stared down at the page. It was the forfeiture clause. The one Jackson signed blindly. The one giving up all rights to any child conceived before the divorce date. Legally binding. Witnessed. Filed. Irreversible. He can't touch your babies, Camila, Harper said softly. Not legally, not financially, not emotionally. He signed away every ounce of control. Camila pressed a hand to her chest as relief and rage collided inside her. So why is he coming? She whispered. Harper exhaled. because he hasn't seen this yet. And when he finds out, he'll lose everything. His company, his reputation, his engagement. Investors will flee. The board will crucify him. And the press. Harper shook her head, almost pitying. He's coming to fight for power he's already lost. Camila closed her eyes, breathing through the truth. And when she opened them again, her eyes weren't scared. They were steel. "Let him come," she whispered. For the first time, she wasn't the one who had to run. And Jackson Pierce was about to walk straight into the end of his own empire. Jackson Pierce arrived in New York like a storm disguised in a suit. He stepped out of the Blacktown car in front of NY Mercy Hospital, rain pouring down his shoulders, his expression carved from fury and denial. Cameras flashed instantly. Paparazzi had been camped out for hours, waiting for the man whose empire was cracking to make his first move. "Jackson, are the twins yours? Did your ex-wife hide the pregnancy from you? Is Adrian Crowell the real father?" He shoved through the crowd, jaw clenched, voice low and deadly. "Get out of my way." Inside the hospital, security watched him with wary eyes. He looked like a man on the edge of something violent. He looked like someone with everything to lose. He found the neonatal wing. He found the hallway. He found the door. But before he could enter, someone stepped out of the shadows and blocked him. Adrian Crowell. Tall. Calm. Controlled. A wall of quiet power. Jackson froze. "You," he hissed. Adrian's eyes didn't waver. "You shouldn't be here, Jackson. You don't get to tell me where I can and can't go," Jackson spat. "Yes," Adrian replied calmly. "I do." Jackson moved as if to shove past him. Adrian didn't move, not even an inch. Instead, he reached into his coat and pulled out a manila envelope. "Before you embarrass yourself any further," Adrian said, voice low and lethal, "you should see this." Jackson snatched the envelope, ripping it open. At first, confusion. Then, disbelief. Then, utter, bone-deep horror. The forfeiture clause. His signature. His initials. Witnessed. Filed. Binding. "No," Jackson whispered. "No, I didn't, this wasn't." Adrian watched him crumble. "You signed away your rights," Adrian said, "to any child conceived before the divorce." "No." Jackson's face twisted. "She tricked me." "She didn't trick you," Adrian said sharply. "You bullied her. You forced her. You rushed the papers. You didn't read what you signed." Jackson looked up, eyes wild. "She can't keep them from me. I'm their father." Finally, Adrian let the hammer fall. "You are nothing to them, legally or otherwise." Jackson's breath shattered in his chest. "And just to be clear," Adrian continued, voice iron, "Camila owes you nothing. Not her children, not her time, not her peace." "You planned this," Jackson growled. "You and that lawyer." "I didn't plan anything," Adrian cut in. "Your actions planned your downfall." Jackson's nostrils flared as another realization struck him. "You knew," he accused. "You knew she was pregnant when you saw her in the park." "I suspected," Adrian said, "but it wasn't my truth to reveal." Jackson took a step closer, fury trembling through him. "Stay out of my family." "Oh." "You destroyed your family the night you abandoned your wife in a parking garage," Adrian replied, his voice steady, cold. "Don't rewrite the history you chose." Jackson's fist tightened. "I'll fight this. I'll go to court." "And lose," Adrian said. "Everything is documented. Every signature is yours. Every lie leads back to you." Then Adrian stepped forward, closing the space between them. "And if you try to hurt her," he said softly, dangerously, "I will make sure you lose much more than a custody battle." For the first time in his life, Jackson truly looked afraid. Before he could respond, the neonatal nurse exited the room behind them. "Mr. Crowell, the twins are ready for their feeding." Jackson inhaled sharply. "They're here?" he whispered. "Right behind that door?" Adrian nodded once. "You don't get to see them," he said. Jackson's face collapsed, and Adrian walked past him, into the room where Camila and her newborns waited, leaving Jackson Pierce standing alone in a cold hallway, drenched in rain and the consequences of his own sins. It was the first time the world saw him, not as a CEO, but as a man losing everything he thought he controlled. The morning after Jackson Pierce stormed into the neonatal wing and was stopped cold by Adrian Crowell, New York woke up with a new villain, and his name was trending worldwide. The tabloids weren't gentle. They were merciless. Number Pierce meltdown. Number Crowell vs. Pierce. Number protect Camila. Every headline carried the same tone. The fall of a powerful man who finally met the consequences he spent years avoiding. And Camila Rhodes? She had unintentionally become the nation's symbol of quiet resilience. News anchors replayed Adrian blocking Jackson in the hospital hallway, captured by a visitor who recorded the confrontation from down the corridor. The video had gone viral in hours. Millions watched Adrian stand between Camila and Jackson like a shield, his voice calm but sharp. He destroyed his own family, Adrian said. Don't rewrite the history you chose. Those words hit the public like a punch. Meanwhile, Jackson sat in the back of a black SUV outside the hospital, hands shaking with a mixture of rage, humiliation, and a fear so unfamiliar he didn't know how to name it. His phone rang nonstop. Board members, lawyers, investors. He ignored all of them. Except one call from Sienna. She didn't sound soft this time. Or loving. Or supportive. She sounded terrified. Jackson, the board called me. They want answers. They want to know if you lied. They think this could tank the merger. Jackson dragged a hand through his hair. I didn't lie. Then why didn't you tell them you might have kids with your ex-wife? She snapped. Why didn't you tell me? Because I didn't know, he shouted. Everyone knows now, Sienna hissed. And they're turning on you. Do you realize what this does to my brand, to my reputation? I'm being crucified online because of you. Jackson closed his eyes. Not even she was on his side anymore. Just stay in LA, he said flatly. Stay? She repeated. Jackson, I'm not sure. Don't, he warned, voice dropping. Don't say something you can't take back. But she already had. And the line went dead. His empire was collapsing in real time. Inside the hospital room, Camila held her baby girl against her chest while Adrian fed the boy from a tiny bottle. The soft glow of sunrise filtered through the blinds, brushing everything with gentle gold. It was the calmest she had felt in years. Adrian glanced over. How are you holding up? She exhaled slowly. Better than I expected. Strong, he said with a half smile. Stronger every day. She blushed slightly, looking down at her daughter. I don't know about strong. Oh, I do, he murmured. But before she could answer, her phone buzzed with dozens of notifications piling in. Headlines, mentions, tags. Then one message from Harper. He's losing everything. The board is voting to suspend him. And the court confirmed the forfeiture clause is airtight. He has no case. None. Camila's breath caught. She hadn't wanted revenge. But justice? She wasn't afraid of justice. Camila, Adrian said gently, reading her expression. You don't owe him compassion. Not after what he did. She swallowed. I don't want to hurt him. I just want him out of our lives. And he will be, Adrian promised. But the world deserves to know who you are too. She hesitated. Who am I? A woman who survived him, Adrian said softly. And built something stronger. Tears filled her eyes, not of pain, but release. And just when she felt the moment settle, a nurse hurried into the room. Miss Rhodes, there's a crowd forming outside. Press, protesters, supporters. Security is asking if you'd like a private exit. Camila blinked. Protesters? The nurse nodded. People are demanding accountability. For you. For her. For once, the world believed her. But outside, another truth was unfolding. Jackson Pierce had arrived at the board meeting, unaware that the final blow to his career was already waiting in his seat. The boardroom of Pierce Biosystems was a glass cage perched high above downtown Los Angeles, a place built for power, not mercy. Rain hammered the windows as if demanding entrance, streaking silver trails down the city's skyline. Inside, the board members sat in a cold semicircle, faces stern, unreadable. The air was suffocatingly still, the kind that precedes a professional execution. Jackson Pierce entered late. His suit was wrinkled, his tie crooked, his eyes bloodshot from a sleepless flight, and a lifetime of arrogance collapsing within 24 hours. He tried to gather himself, smoothing his jacket, as if that alone could restore his authority. Gentlemen, he began, trying to sound composed. Whatever you've seen online. Sit, Chairman Lee said. The single syllable cut him down like a blade. Jackson stiffened but took his seat, jaw tight. The projector screen lit up. Not with slides. Not with financial projections. But with headlines. Pierce CEO concealed ex-wife's pregnancy. Twins? Public erupts over Jackson Pierce's silence. Biotech scandal. CEO accused of abandoning pregnant wife. Crowell steps in where was Pierce. Every headline hit like a slap. We've endured scandals before, Jackson snapped. This is nothing but PR. This is not PR, board member Santos interrupted. This is a pattern of unethical behavior. Another board member leaned forward. And now, possible financial misconduct. Lun. Jackson's heart lurched. What misconduct? The lights dimmed slightly as a folder slid across the table toward him. Several transactions were authorized under your credentials, Chairman Lee said. Funds diverted to a shell corporation. Millions unaccounted for. I didn't approve those transfers. Jackson barked. Someone tampered with. Then why, Lee said slowly, were they authorized from your office, your devices, your personal login? Jackson's pulse pounded. Someone hacked my account. Santos scoffed. Convenient. This is Adrian Crowell, Jackson hissed, leaning forward. He's orchestrating this. He's trying to take me down. No, Lee said calmly. The timing aligns with your personal choices. Then the screen changed again. Photos of Camila, pregnant, in the hospital, held protectively by Adrian. The twins' bassinets. The room went unbearably still. Lee folded his hands. You lied to us. Jackson felt heat crawl up his neck. I didn't know she was pregnant. She kept it from me. Lee didn't blink. We have medical records showing you were warned about temporary infertility. You knew conception was possible. Yet you concealed that information while rushing your divorce and announcing an engagement. Jackson's stomach dropped. Furthermore, Santos added, we received a legal statement confirming you signed a forfeiture of parental rights. The humiliation was suffocating. You're asking us to believe, Lee said, that you abandoned your wife, attempted to erase a pregnancy, and now want to lead a company built on ethics. Jackson slammed his hand on the table. I am this company. No, Lee said calmly. You were. Jackson froze. Lee raised a document. This is a vote for immediate suspension. Pending investigation. No, Jackson whispered, voice cracking. You can't. We can, Santos said. And we will. One by one, board members raised their hands. Jackson watched each vote like a dagger sinking into his flesh. Suspended. Powerless. Erased. The same way he erased Camila. This is a mistake, he pleaded. I built this empire. And now it's collapsing, Lee said. Because of you. Jackson's vision blurred. His phone vibrated relentlessly. He didn't look. But the text preview glowed on the screen. From Sienna, we're done. Don't contact me again. The final blow. The empire, the engagement, the reputation, gone. And far away in New York, the woman he discarded was finally safe from him. But Jackson wasn't finished yet. He was about to do something desperate. Something reckless. Something that would push all three of their lives toward a point of no return. Jackson Pierce left the boardroom in a daze, barely aware of the rain slapping his face or the cluster of reporters shouting questions he couldn't hear. His shoes splashed through puddles as he stumbled to the car waiting at the curb, but he didn't get in. He couldn't breathe. He couldn't think. His entire life, his empire had collapsed in 12 hours. The company he built. The woman he flaunted. The reputation he polished. Gone. Because of Camila. Because of Crowell. Because of those twins he never believed could exist. He leaned against a cold concrete pillar in the parking garage, gripping his hair with both hands. How did this happen? He whispered, voice cracking. How did she beat me? He remembered Camila's face in the hospital video, exhausted yet radiant, fragile yet glowing in Adrian's arms. The image burned into his skull, a reminder of every mistake he had made. He wasn't angry at her. He was furious with himself. And terrified. If those twins were his, they held his legacy, his name, his future, and he had signed it all away. A choice he couldn't undo. Unless he created new leverage. A twisted spark ignited in his mind. Not violence. Not intimidation. Information. He would find something, anything to use against Adrian Kroll. And if he couldn't take the twins from Camila legally, he would make sure Adrian couldn't have her either. He pulled out his phone, dialed a number he hadn't used in years. "Marcus," he said when the line picked up. "I need dirt on Kroll. Every scandal, every weakness, everything he's hiding." Lund. There was a long pause on the other end. "Jackson, going after Kroll is suicide." "I don't care." Jackson snapped. "Do it." But Marcus's tone hardened. "You don't understand. Kroll is connected to agencies you've never even been in the same room with. You go after him, he'll bury you deeper than the board just did." A tremor of fear slid down Jackson's spine, then anger swallowed it. "I'm already buried," he hissed. "Just dig." Hem. Meanwhile in New York, Camila held her son against her chest, humming softly as dusk settled outside the hospital window. Adrian sat beside her, arms folded, quietly keeping watch. "You don't have to stay every night," she murmured. "I know," he said gently, "but I want to." She looked at him, really looked, and something inside her softened. Adrian's presence had become a kind of safety she hadn't felt in years. A warmth that slowly unraveled the trauma knotted inside her ribs. "You're thinking too much," he teased. "I'm overwhelmed," she admitted. In a good way, but still overwhelmed. He leaned slightly closer. "You don't have to decide anything now. You just had twins. Your only job is healing." Her eyes softened. "I'm trying, and you're doing better than you think." But when she shifted her gaze, she noticed something outside. A figure standing across the street. Dark coat. Still. Watching the hospital entrance. Her breath caught. "Adrian," she whispered. "Is that?" Adrian's eyes narrowed. He stood, moving to the window with the quiet precision of a man who was used to danger. "It's not Jackson," he said finally. "Wrong height. Wrong posture." "Then who?" Adrian exhaled slowly. "Someone watching him. Or us." A chill crept over her skin. "What does that mean?" "It means," Adrian said, jaw tightening, "that Pierce isn't the only threat in play. Someone else has decided to get involved." "Lun." The babies stirred softly in her arms. Camila held them closer. And for the first time since giving birth, true fear not for herself, but for them pressed hard into her chest. Because whatever was coming next wouldn't be simple and wouldn't be safe. The figure outside the hospital didn't move. He stood across the street beneath a flickering street lamp, coat collar turned up, head tilted just slightly, as if listening to something the world couldn't hear. Cars passed. Pedestrians hurried by. But he remained fixed, his attention trained on the neonatal wing windows as though he were guarding or hunting. Camila felt her skin prickle. "Adrian, who is he?" Adrian didn't answer immediately. He watched the silhouette with the steady, controlled stillness of a man who had lived too long in rooms where silence mattered more than words. "He's not paparazzi," Adrian murmured. "Then what is he?" Adrian finally turned to her. "A complication." Her pulse spiked. "Does this have to do with Jackson?" "Indirectly," Adrian said. "When a CEO of Jackson's profile falls, the wolves always show up." Camila held her breath. Wolves. Competitors. Investors. Private intelligence firms. People who smell blood and want to know whether he's dying or can still be revived. Adrian's jaw tensed. And some of them want information about the twins. Her arms instinctively tightened around her sleeping baby girl. "They're infants. Why would anyone care?" "Because they're part of the Pierce bloodline," Adrian said softly. "And because Jackson's enemies want leverage." Leverage. The word made her stomach drop. Adrian stepped closer, resting a hand gently on her shoulder. "No one is reaching you or the babies. Not while I breathe." But fear had already curled itself around her heart. At the same time, 3 states away, Jackson sat alone in a cheap motel room, his suit gone, his eyes wild, nothing left of the polished CEO persona he wore like armor. His phone buzzed. An unknown number. He answered, voice raw. "Who is this?" A calm, unfamiliar voice responded. "Someone who knows you lost your company." Jackson stiffened. "If this is about the board, It's not, the voice interrupted. It's about the twins. Silence. Heavy. Deadly. Jackson's throat closed. What about them? You're desperate, the voice said. And desperation makes men useful. Jackson swallowed hard. What do you want? Not what I want, the voice corrected. What you want. Access. Information. Control. A beat of dread pulsed through Jackson's chest. Meet me tomorrow, the caller continued, or lose the only leverage you have left. The line went dead. Jackson gripped the phone so tightly his knuckles whitened. Someone else wanted the twins. Someone who didn't care about Camila. Someone who thought Jackson was weak enough to use. He slammed his fist onto the table. No, he whispered. They're mine. They're my children. But the truth clawed at him. He had no legal right to them. No moral right. Nothing but desperation. And desperation made him dangerous. Back in New York, Adrian asked the nurse to take the twins for an hour so Camila could rest. But sleep didn't come. Her mind replayed the image of the figure outside. Every shadow in the hallway felt heavier. An hour later, Adrian returned, his expression different, harder, colder. I had someone identify the man, he said. Camila sat up. And? He's former private intelligence, Adrian replied. A fixer. Sometimes hired by executives who want things kept quiet or removed. Her breath caught. Removed? He's not here to hurt you, Adrian said quickly. If that were the goal, he wouldn't be standing in plain sight. He's here to gather information. Lot. On the babies? She whispered. On you, Adrian corrected. On why a powerful man like Jackson would lose everything over a woman he discarded. Camila's eyes filled with fear. Adrian, I don't want to be dragged into this war. He knelt beside her, taking her hands. You didn't start this war, he said, but you're going to finish it with me. She exhaled shakily. And Jackson? She asked. Adrian's voice dropped to steel. Jackson is about to learn what happens when you hurt a good woman. He stood, glancing toward the window. And the man in the shadows? Adrian's jaw tightened. He won't be the only one watching. Because the storm was no longer forming. It had arrived. And everyone, Camila, Adrian, Jackson, was standing directly in its path. The storm outside NY Mercy had thinned to a steady drizzle by the time Camila Rhodes was discharged with the twins. The babies were cleared to go home under close monitoring, and though exhaustion weighed heavily on her shoulders, she finally felt a fragile sense of hope. Adrian insisted on escorting her to his penthouse, more secure, better protected, safer than her apartment in Washington Heights. She didn't argue. She couldn't. Not with strange men watching the hospital. Not with Jackson spiraling out of control, and not with the quiet dread that something was coming. It didn't take long. Their SUV had just pulled into the private parking garage beneath Adrian's building when headlights flared from the opposite direction, too bright, too fast. Tires screeched against wet pavement. Adrian reacted instantly. Get down, he snapped, arm flying across Camila as he shielded the infant carriers with his body. The car door burst open, and Jackson Pierce stumbled out. He was soaked, frantic, his suit rumpled, his hair plastered to his forehead. He looked nothing like the polished CEO the world once admired. He looked like a man drowning. Camila, he shouted, voice cracking. I need to talk to you. Adrian stepped out of the SUV, blocking Jackson's path. Turn around. You're trespassing. Get out of my way, Jackson hissed. I'm talking to my wife. Camila's heart tightened, but Adrian didn't budge. She's not your wife, Adrian said, calm but deadly. And you have no right to be here. Jackson's eyes blazed. You stole her from me. No, Adrian said. You threw her away. Jackson lunged forward, but Adrian slammed him backward against the concrete pillar, forearm pressed against his collarbone. Jackson struggled, coughing. You don't understand, Jackson gasped. I need to see the twins. Camila's breath caught. She stepped forward slowly, still cradling her daughter against her chest. Why? She asked quietly. Why now? Jackson froze. Rainwater dripped from his lashes. His chest heaved. His voice wavered. Because I think they're mine. Silence. A cold, heavy silence that seemed to swallow the garage. Camila's fingers trembled. They were always yours, Jackson. I never lied to you. His face crumpled. Then why didn't you tell me? he rasped. She swallowed hard. Would you have believed me? You told me I couldn't carry a pregnancy. You told me I was the problem. You, her voice cracked. You walked away from me. 1. Jackson's eyes darted between her, the babies, and Adrian, who still kept one hand braced against his chest. I made mistakes, Jackson breathed. But I can fix this. I can be involved. I want to be in their lives. Camila looked at him, really looked, and felt something inside her shift. Not sympathy, not love, not hatred, clarity. No, she said softly. You can't. Jackson blinked. Camila, you signed away your rights, she continued, voice steadier now. You made your choice before they were even born. And you don't get to rewrite it because you regret it. Jackson's jaw trembled. I didn't know. You didn't want to know. She cut in. He flinched as if slapped. Adrian released his grip slowly, stepping back beside Camila like a shield made human. Jackson's voice finally broke. So that's it? I lose them too? Camila held her son tighter. You lost them the night you lost me. Jackson's breath shattered. But I loved you, he whispered. Camila's eyes softened, not with forgiveness, but truth. You loved control, she said. And once you didn't have it anymore, there was nothing left. Jackson swayed on his feet, desperate and defeated, the rain washing the last traces of pride from his face. And then Adrian stepped forward, voice quiet but final. Leave. Now. This is the last time you come near her or the twins. Next time, you won't walk away. Jackson stared at them, mother, babies, the man protecting them, with a look of hollow devastation. Then he turned and stumbled back into the darkness. Camila exhaled shakily, leaning into Adrian's steady presence. For the first time since the divorce, she felt free. But the final blow hadn't landed yet. And tomorrow, the whole world would watch her reclaim her power once and for all. The next morning, New York woke up buzzing long before the sun climbed over the skyline. The city pulsed with anticipation, not about a celebrity scandal, not about a Wall Street crash, but about Camila Rhodes, the quiet woman who survived what millions of women feared: betrayal, abandonment, and public humiliation, and somehow emerged stronger. Outside Adrian Crowell's penthouse, crowds had gathered, press, supporters, even strangers holding signs. We stand with Camila. Justice for moms. Power doesn't make a family, love does. Inside, sunlight filtered through tall windows, casting golden warmth across the living room, where Camila sat with her newborn twins nestled in her arms. Their tiny breaths soothed the ache she didn't realize she'd been holding. Harper Quinn entered with a stack of documents. It's time, she said gently. If you're ready. Camila looked at her babies, at their perfect faces, their soft hands curling instinctively around her fingers. She inhaled deeply, steady. I am. Adrian stepped beside her, offering his hand, not demanding, not assuming, but simply offering. She took it. The small press conference was held in a secure room downstairs, far from the shouting crowds. Only a handful of trusted journalists were allowed inside, plus legal representatives. Cameras flashed as Camila entered, but for the first time, she didn't shrink. She didn't tremble. She stood tall, still soft, still gentle, but unbreakably strong. Harper nudged the microphone toward her. If you feel ready, she whispered. Camila cleared her throat, her voice quiet but steady. I never wanted to be in the public eye. I never wanted a scandal, or headlines, or attention. I wanted a peaceful marriage. I wanted to build a family with someone I believed loved me. She paused, emotion catching in her throat. But life doesn't always unfold the way we hope. Sometimes people take advantage of your silence, your kindness, your trust. The room fell silent. And sometimes, she continued, voice strengthening, life gives you a chance to rebuild everything that was broken. She looked at the cameras not with anger, but with truth. I didn't hide my pregnancy. I didn't hide my children. I protected them from a man who made me believe I wasn't enough. But I am enough, and my children are enough. And we will live without fear. Then Harper stepped forward, lifting a single paper, the document that sealed Jackson's fate. This, Harper announced, is the legally binding forfeiture of parental rights signed by Jackson Pierce. It is final, irrevocable, and fully enforceable. A ripple of shock moved through the room. And, Harper added, there will be no custody battle, no visitation rights, no financial claims. The children are solely, entirely, legally, Camila's. Flash, flash, flash. Camila felt her lungs expand as if she were breathing fully for the first time in years. Then the next blow landed, delivered not by her, but by Harper. In addition, evidence of Mr. Pierce's fraudulent transfers and unethical behavior has been submitted to federal investigators. A full inquiry has been opened. Gasps. Mortimer's. Adrian's jaw tightened with approval. Justice hadn't just arrived. It thundered. Across the country, surrounded by reporters outside the collapsing empire he once ruled, Jackson Pierce watched the live stream on someone's phone. His face drained of color. The board's vote. The investigation. The forfeiture clause. His ex-wife's strength on full display. Everything he tried to bury had buried him instead. And as the cameras turned on him, hungry, relentless, Jackson finally understood. This wasn't Camila's revenge. It was his consequence. Hours later, back in the quiet of the penthouse, the twins slept peacefully in their bassinets. Camila sat on the couch, exhaustion and relief sinking into her bones. Adrian joined her, sitting close enough for comfort but far enough for respect. "You changed everything today," he said softly. "No," she whispered. "I just told the truth." He studied her, admiration warming his eyes. "Camila, you deserve more than survival. You deserve joy. You deserve love. You deserve a future that finally gives as much as you give." Her heart fluttered. "And if you ever want that future with me," he added gently, "I'm here." 1. Camila exhaled, a small smile touching her lips. Not pressured, not rushed, not claimed, just free. She leaned her head against his shoulder, watching the skyline glow through the glass. For the first time, her life felt whole. Her children safe. Her dignity restored. Her past closed. Her future wide open. And in the soft, golden quiet, Camila Rhodes finally stepped into the life she always deserved. So, that's the end of our story, my wonderful friends. And if you're still here, listening all the way to this moment, then something in Camila's journey must have touched your heart in a way only real pain and real healing can. Maybe you've been betrayed. Maybe you've had to rebuild yourself from nothing. Or maybe you're still learning how to let go of someone who only held you back. Camila's story reminds us of something the Stoics said long ago. What stands in the way becomes the way. Her heartbreak didn't destroy her, it shaped her. It taught her strength she never knew she had. And just like Marcus Aurelius wrote, the impediment to action advances action. Every wound became a doorway. Every loss became a turning point. Life doesn't always give us the closure we want, but it does give us the chance to rise higher than the people who tried to break us. And if you're going through something heavy right now, please remember, you too can rebuild. You too deserve peace. If this story stayed with you, give it a like, share it with someone who needs strength today, and don't forget to subscribe so we can walk through more stories together. You're not alone, and you never were.